As a photographer, there's no doubt in my mind that at some point you have Googled photography accessories. I know I have. I'm just as guilty as the next photographer. However, I found over the years there's only a handful of accessories that I couldn't live without, and I thought it would be a great time in this video to go through what I think are my top 5 landscape photography accessories. Let's start off with the humble L bracket. This bracket here on the camera screws into the bottom tripod mounting screw hole and is an L shape. And I've got one here that I used to have on my D810 just so you can sort of see what it looks like. If you haven't used an L bracket, realistically, for me, it was probably the one thing that made my shooting so much easier when I got to a composition if I wanted to try some different things. And the beautiful thing with an L bracket is you can quickly go from landscape sort of orientation to portrait orientation just by flipping across to the other side of the L bracket and not have to touch the tripod, so it made it really easy. Also great if you're changing from landscape to portrait to keep your tripod really steady, because sometimes if you are to twist your head right over to put the camera on its side, it can actually make your tripod unstable. So it just made it really easy. Also gave you that extra stability so you didn't have to worry about camera shake. And an added bonus of these is they're a bit like a bit of armor for your camera as well. Not always the cheapest thing to buy. I've been buying these ones here from Really Right Stuff. I don't know how well you can see that with the camera's focusing or not. But Really Right Stuff L brackets aren't cheap, but they certainly have stood the test of time when it comes to my L bracket selection. All right, well, my second accessory that I think I can no longer live without is this little beauty here. It's a Hoodman Loupe. It allows me to see things, especially in daylight. So if you haven't seen a Hoodman Loupe, they're quite a very clever thing. Once again, not the cheapest accessory to buy, but really powerful for couple of different situations. One is if you're like me and you've got a bit older and you have to wear these short lookers to see things clearly, then a Hoodman Loupe allows you to be able to preview your image by adjusting the diopter that's on the Hoodman Loupe itself. That's what this bit here that rotates around is, to get things into focus. And then you can put your Hoodman Loupe across the back of your screen like that, which then allows you to see it without reflection. So if you're looking into your monitor at any time where there's a bit of daylight around or harsh light, maybe around sunrise, sunset, or during the day, it can really help with looking at your, the detail of your shot with a lot more, I guess, focus and without distraction. So I find the Hoodman Loupe to be something that I'm using more and more to help me make sure that I've actually got focus throughout the range of my entire image. And yeah, just a good tool, a really good tool and accessory. So the next thing I want to talk about is probably the thing I use more than anything, and that is my wireless shutter release. Now this remote here is one that I did a video on many years ago when I was going through the process of trying to find the best remote shutter release for my Nikon cameras. And this one, it works with a whole series of the Nikon DSLRs, probably with the mirrorless as well. I currently use this with the D850. This is it's called the RFN4S. You can find them on Amazon. They're not the cheapest of things to buy, once again, but have stood the test of time. Now I've just put mine on a lanyard when I was in New Zealand that I got with a little, what do they call these? Carabiner, but not really a carabiner, just a little aluminium clip. And I clip that onto my belt loop wherever I go. And then it is just as simple as pressing this button here and it activates the shutter release on my camera. Now the downside is you can't use back button focus because it does rely on you having the shutter button release selected on your camera. And a lot of people wonder how you use this for long exposures. You just hold it down for a few seconds, it actually locks it on, and then you click it again to turn it off. Very effective. The other thing I really like about this particular model, if we look at my camera, you'll see that the only thing that goes on it is this little tiny aerial here, and I never ever take it off. Some people have had reports of that breaking when it's been sitting on there. This is my second one of these in many years, and I've never managed to break that. The reason I had to buy another one was I dropped the remote in salt water, and eventually obviously the corrosion gremlins got in there and wrecked the whole thing, so it didn't work anymore. But I can't go without a remote shutter release when I'm doing my landscape photography. It's the one thing that guarantees that I won't get any camera shake, and particularly if you're in an environment where your feet might be moving the ground, like with sand or built up leaves, etc., in a forest. quite often that alone can move the tripod and you don't even realize it's happening. So to be able to get away from the camera and just click away is great. Even if somebody interrupts me during a shoot, I might be out doing sunrise, quite often people come and talk to you. I can just be clicking away when I see the right wave coming in or something with my remote shutter release. I'm nowhere near my camera, so it works really well. Alrighty, accessory number 4. This is going to be something that you see a lot of photographers using, and it's questioned quite a lot because of the advancement of digital technology sensors. Do you need to use filters anymore? Well, there's only a few that I actually use. I sold quite a lot of mine off, but this is a graduated filter, and as you can see, it goes from dark to light. Excuse the reflections from my blinds, but you get the picture. And I've just got a few different ones in here. I've also got a CPL filter in here as well, which can be quite useful if you're shooting across water with reflections or a waterfall or wet rocks. And then I've got some hard grad, so you can see that the line is just a bit harder on those as well, which are great for seascapes. I did have a few others, but these are the 5 that I use. So I've got a 0.6 and a 0.9. Which is 2-stop and 3-stop soft grad, and same in hard grad, and the circular polarizing filter. And I find that really the ones I use most is the soft graduated ones, the 0.6 and the 0.9, and the CPL. I hardly ever use the hard grads. I just find the line too hard and not necessary. If you haven't used filters, and of course you can use your software afterwards. In post-production you can lift the shadows up and you can fix most things, but it comes with a word of warning. Whenever you're recovering shadow detail, you will typically create noise, and I challenge you just to go out, take a couple of shots. Even with my D850, which has an amazing sensor, I can shoot at say 2 stops under or even 3 stops under to get the so I'm exposing for the highlights, and then as soon as I bring the shadow detail up, I'll see there's a lot of noise in it. So I still tend to like to at least settle the sky down by 1 stop, which is that 0.9 filter, or if necessary I can add the other 0.6 on top of it and do 1.6 stops, and that means that I can pretty much expose the image scene really nicely. The other thing it'll help you do, if you use live view, it'll actually brighten up your foreground in the image on your live view, and it'll help you compose your images better. So I can't go without filters. Once again, not a cheap accessory, but one of those things that if you get them and you use them, you'll start to see a difference in your images. Now, when you don't have to push your shadows so much, what happens is, and this is what I found in my testing, is that you retain a lot more of the color detail in your shadows if you expose them a little bit better. So if you really have to underexpose, let's say you're shooting into the sun at sunrise or sunset and you're exposing for the highlights, you might have to expose at -2 or -2.5 or something like that. And what happens is that the shadows look really dark, but they're not so dark you can't recover them, but what you can't recover is some of the color. I find you lose a bit of the color detail. So by using the filters, it does really help to get a better photo overall in the end, and so a great option for you. I can't live without my filters. I use them pretty much on just about every single shoot. As a landscape shooter, it would be no surprise, I think, if I didn't say that my tripod was the other accessory that I found invaluable. In fact, my channel and my photography business is called On 3 Legs because I use a tripod pretty much all of the time. Most of the time my camera is on these very 3 legs. And now this is the Really Right Stuff TVC33. I actually don't think they make this model anymore. I bought this a long time ago. I was very fortunate to pick it up when the Australian dollar was at parity with the US dollar. And I got it shipped in 2 pieces to avoid paying any of the nasty import taxes because it was under the limit that we have here in Australia. What I did buy was the legs, the TVC33, and also bought the BH55 bullhead, which has just been amazing. I've had these for many, many years. They've been through all sorts of conditions, whether it's sand, surf, mud, snow, you name it, I've dropped it. These things, we've taken thousands of photos together, and to this day it still works flawlessly. When it comes to spending money on photography gear, it can be difficult sometimes in your mind to justify. I know these run at ridiculous dollars now, so I'm not suggesting you go and buy one of these, but invest in a good tripod because it will make your whole experience of photography so much more enjoyable. To the little things that I didn't think about, this is carbon fiber, so much more comfortable to carry in cold weather than an aluminium tripod. I had a Manfrotto aluminium tripod before this one, and just having the carbon fiber more comfortable to hold. I know some of them actually have foam over part of the leg for that reason. The twist locks on the legs, you know, to allow you to easily extend and retract the legs, and also to be able to separate those, pull them right out for servicing, so you can, you know, pull it apart for servicing. To the ball head, you know, for me, just it works so flawlessly. It's fluid, and I never have to worry about whether or not my tripod is going to do the job. And I think that's, you know, as much as that's something you go, oh well, yeah, that's nice to have. To me, it's invaluable part of my photography workflow process is knowing that when I get to a location, and quite often I get there, I run late, I get there, and I need to set up like that. I need to know that my gear is just going to work and perform regardless, and I just get it out and get it happening. So I can't live without my tripod. I think if you're going to invest in a good tripod, you can't go wrong. There's no doubt that all that gear I've gone through today, none of it is cheap gear. You're not going to find it on Alibaba or Amazon really cheap. You're going to have to pay for a reputable brand to get good gear. However, I always see people spend thousands of dollars on cameras and on lenses, and then, you know, put their $5,000 camera body on a $35 tripod. And I just shake my head and go, you've just negated the whole purpose of that amazing piece of equipment, because you've just put it on a tripod that is not steady, is not going to hold your camera steady. Or you go to all that trouble and, you know, something like this just to help check that focus and make sure that you've nailed the shot. Little things like wireless remote shutter. You'll notice I don't even have a camera strap on my camera because that can blow around in the wind and shake your camera during an exposure. So I'm a big fan of wireless. Forget having wires coming from your camera. All of these things just make for a better experience. And, you know, when you look at other photographers, and it's never good to compare yourself to other photographers, but maybe they're getting those shots that are sharp and vibrant and amazing, and you can just see that, you know, they're just another step above. Typically, it's not the camera. Typically, it's the technique, and the technique is then enhanced by the equipment that you use. No matter what profession you're in, if you talk to a carpenter, I'm sure they've got saws that are better than the handyman saws you buy at Bunnings. If you talk to a surgeon, I'm sure they're not just using X-Acto knives from the hobby store. They're using professional scalpels. Weird example, I know. But I just think it's so important that as a landscape photographer, if you're serious about your craft, take a bit of time to invest in the gear. Anyway, hopefully you found that helpful. I'll throw in a sixth accessory that I find invaluable, and that is my coffee. I love a good cup of coffee. Early mornings for photographers mean that we need to get a caffeine shot to get us going. Not everybody, I know, but I certainly do enjoy it. Hopefully you found the video helpful. Let me know down in the comments, have you got any photography accessories that you find invaluable? I'd love to know if there's something in particular that you've found that really makes your experience heaps easier or better, or allows you to take, you know, more amazing images. Let me know in the comments down below. And of course, if you like the video, make sure you hit the thumbs up to signal that you love it, because I'd love to know whether or not you like this type of content. And until next time, I hope you get out there and take some photos. See ya.